Hi, hello, it's Leilani from the Bible in 1 Year. Today we are reading the two chapters of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and chapter 28. The prophecies of Ezekiel from chapter 26 till 28 focused on the city of Tyre. Tyre was a famous commercial center just north of Israel. Out of the Message translation, chapter 27 begins with a message of the Lord that came to Ezekiel saying, "You, son of man, raise a funeral song over Tyre." Now, because of my line of work, I am part of a lot of funerals, and usually the best things are said at a funeral. A tribute is given, usually to express people's admiration and show appreciation to the deceased. But this is not the case as Ezekiel sings a funeral song over the city of Tyre. Tyre is portrayed as the ruler of the seas, occupying the entrances of the seas. But God says to them, "You boast, Tyre, declaring, 'I am a perfect beauty.'" Now, Tyre was a proud city. They saw themselves as a city without limits and full of beauty. In reading this, I'm reminded about Proverbs 31, verse 30, that says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting." And true beauty cannot be seen from the outside. It must be found within the soul. Beauty without depth and character has no foundation, and it will fall when it is shaken. Now, the impressive list of people, places, and nations trading with Tyre shows what an economic powerhouse Tyre was. But the absence of any mention of God shows that they cared only for business and had no regards for God. Tyre regarded herself as all-powerful. She was possessed of wealth and wisdom above all other cities, and this led to incredible arrogance. Proverbs 29 verse 23 says that a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Basically reminding us that our attitudes are one of our greatest influences. If we are proud, we are going down. And even the best and the strongest of ships are vulnerable to the power of the wind and the seas. Everything was fine for Tyre until it wasn't. Then a storm out of the east shatters your ships in the ocean deep. Everything sinks, your rich goods and products, sailors and crews, ships and carpenters and soldiers sank to the bottom of the sea. Total shipwrecked. This is what happened to Tyre. All her material prosperity could not help her when the east winds broke her. And then in chapter 28, God told Ezekiel to speak to the prince of Tyre, because the prince of Tyre had a high opinion of himself, but God knew who he was. God said to him, "Your heart is proud, going around saying, 'I am a god.'" But he was no god, just a man, and in his pride, he thought of himself wiser than Daniel. But God did not condemn the prince of Tyre for the possessions of riches, but for how those riches corrupted him, that money went to his head. "Therefore, thus says the Lord, because you have set your heart as a heart of God, behold, therefore I am bringing strangers against you, the most terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of your wisdom, and defile your splendor." God promised that the judgment to come upon Tyre from foreign nations would humble the prince of Tyre, exposing his humanity to the world. The enemy wants us to focus on what we have achieved, and everything regarding possessions, even if it means to disregard our words and our values. The enemy makes us blind when it comes to the riches of the world. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So now may we know that we can only give God praise and only rely on Him, because it's His grace that edifies and uplifts us. It's the blessings that flows out of His hands. Because blessed, spiritually prosperous, happy, to be admired are the poor in spirit. those devoid of spiritual arrogance, those who regard themselves as insignificant. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven, both now and forever, says Matthew 5, verse 3 from the Amplified Translation. And today I want to end this message with the powerful words of this song. Let the weak say that I am strong. Let the poor say I am rich. Let the blind say that I can see. It's what the Lord has done in me. May it be our prayer to stay humble before the Lord and not to corrupt our hearts as the city and the prince of Tyre did. Until we speak again next week, be blessed. Goodbye.